Hi, friends. Hello. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. It's wonderful to have you here. We have a very special guest on stream today. It's Paul.
Thank you for having me, Claire. We saw you play it, and you were one of the first playing the prototype demo, and then you sent us a message. So we said we have to dive on it right away.
Yeah, it was really no. You know what? I just said, literally, we've just started a call, and I just said to Paul, it's so weird that we've had all of these interactions and all of this stuff go on, and this is the first time we've spoken.
Like I said as well, this was bound to happen. So at one point we needed to make this happen, and it is today. It's right now. So I'm happy we're doing
this. It's right now. How are you doing, Paul? How is everything in the KeokeN camp?
It is it's great actually. The amount of beautiful reaction, people that support us and share kind of our message for our Kickstarter and kind of know a little bit about our situation. Very kind, but in all honesty, it's also nerve-wracking. Like, this Kickstarter is on the edge. We still have, 2 days to go. It's hours now away from finishing. So yes, it's getting us a little nervous.
Yeah.
Still, I'm very confident that we are getting it, but it's it's getting a little sweaty now.
You did the I missed this. I wasn't fully involved with the Deliver series or know anything about the Deliver series at this point, but you did Deliver Us Home was not Deliver Us Home, Deliver Us the Moon was Kickstarter backed as well, wasn't it? How do the two compare? You've lived through 2 now. How do they compare?
The first time we did it, we were a very small, unknown company without a track record. So this was kind of okay, we need to maybe push for something like this. That was kind of also our message to people to say okay, this is the ambition. This is what these guys are made of, but they don't have really a track record. And now we have 2 games on markets. Hitting kind of all platforms, so people kind of can expect something of us. And now it's more, times have changed a bit. So Kickstarter was really well known back then, and it was kind of also a nice way to do it. Now, of course, the whole market and kind of a bit of a recession is there as well. So it's a bit tougher. It's now also you need to compete against these very multi-million dollar companies kind of to get your get the attention. So it's quite hard in that extent, although a lot of people know us. So we need to kind of work in our own bubble of the people that we know and played Deliver Us the Moon or Deliver Us Mars, but then also try to reach a little bit outside. So anything that we can do as a team. We are very small at the moment, just my brother and I and 2 volunteers that are still part of the team, doing anything we can, from developing the game, the prototype, to doing marketing, to doing PR, to being the boot babe like this. So we are trying to do anything just to get a bit of attention. It really makes or breaks our studio. So if we can't reach it, then it's kind of like lights out for us.
Yeah.
So it's pretty serious.
That's great. It's so wild. It's so wild to me because and I'm gonna wax lyrical about Deliver Us the Moon, Deliver Us Mars, because you chat knows how much I love those games and how important they are to me, and it's just wild to me that we're at this point where there's a real present danger of there not even being that 3rd game in the series, and it is upsetting. It genuinely upsets me, and I can't imagine how tough it must have been for you over the last.
It's game making it's tough,
Yeah.
and for this whole industry. So for people that follow the news a bit about more of the industry, what's going on, so it's not only the big companies having some trouble, it's all the smaller ones under it. So it's kind of this pyramid hierarchy where if the big ones are failing and the big publishers and investors are failing, then the rest will kind of start to fall apart as well. So you have amazing studios like Tongo Works, they need to shut down, which is insane after such a success. Then you also have people like Pathfinder that's kind of winning all these awards, and still kind of begging for investors to come in. It's just a very tough market at this point. So even if you have a mediocre success, or it's kind of an indie title, not too expensive, not like a 100 million budget, it's still very, very hard to kind of get the ball rolling. And for some gamers, they just see the game as some sort of product, like it becomes like not personal anymore, but it's just the livelihood of people that is just behind that. So we are not like a very huge company and just throwing money at it. Like every cent that we have is spent as wise as we can to facilitate the games that we love. And of course, we have also thought about like the games that we made and kind of the mistakes that we made, and we can make it a little bit better. But yeah, it's just a rough industry at this point. It's just very rough to get this manifested into reality. We just love games so much. Like I think that many sane person would say, okay, I'm out of here. Like this is not worth it. But we just can't drop it. It's just, we love it so much. We need to make this game.
I feel that viscerally. It's so funny. I like that need to complete something, or like just complete it. I wanna pivot ever so slightly. We will inevitably, obviously, come back to things that are going on in the industry. But I think the something that I've been really interested to find out is what games inspired you to create. Even Deliverers Home, Deliverers of the Moon. I keep getting that mixed up, but even like Deliverers the Moon. What games were you playing as you were growing up, or as you were, which inspired you really?
It started with our grandfather. So my brother and I, we started this together, this whole journey as a company and making Deliverers the Moon and Mars. He was a telescope builder, and I think when we were very young, we watched the moon up close. And even when we were making it, so we were asked this question quite a bit by people, and most of it was like something like we said the movie Interstellar or 2001: Space Odyssey, these kind of things. And later on, we said like, no, of course it must be Granddad's. Like we watched that like very young, and it kind of resonated with us and of our place in the universe. And we were very aware on a very young age that we were not just like living life as it just comes, but really our place on that pale blue dots, that we are calling Earth. And then you saw the moon, and we saw Mars, and then we were wondering what is out there more. So we had this more philosophical dad and grandpa, so we wondered upon kind of our existence. So yes, I would say that was one huge inspiration. But then also like we play games like from a young age, so also adventures like Tomb Raider was something that we really loved. But then later on, also companies like Naughty Dog with The Last of Us was like, we love these stories that are meaningful, especially when it broke out of the arcade kind of phase where games was just like cool little tiny mini games, I would almost call it, as an arcade. Then became very meaningful with a message and kind of it made you feel all these things. And it was just not shooting things, but it was kind of more like, whoa, actually, this is a piece of art. Like, I don't like what I'm seeing. So I think great art provokes in a good way and in a bad way. So that inspired a lot as well. So we really would love to create these rich, huge adventures that is kind of close to the heart.
Yeah.
So something that people can grasp. So it's not just only majestic among the stars and it's only bigger than life. No, but also something very meaningful to the heart. Something about love, something about family. And that's what we always try to portray within our power as like a small studio to create something like that.
Family is a really huge theme like throughout the game as well, and it's really interesting that you've touched on that. I first of all, how dare you for Deliverers Mars, just in general, how dare you? Like I'm still not over it. But what does the after you wrote Deliverers the Moon, has it always been a plan to have 3 games, or is that something that evolved on the back of the success of Deliverers the Moon?
At first, it was, of course, the start of kind of our ambition, which was Deliverers the Moon, an adventure among the stars on the moon. But yes, very soon after we kind of started this trilogy feel. So I remember the first publisher that we had, which was a Swedish company. We pitched this. We pitched these 3 games, and that's unfortunately that didn't really turn out well because they had some other issues, and we needed to set our own ways, which is okay. But so we could never do it with them. But that was already the pitch. We already said it's gonna be Deliver Us Mars as well, and we didn't know at the time that we could create it, and Home as well. So we, of course, we have switched a bit of like names, but we had a few names, which was, of course, Mars was the second one, was really kind of like the straightforward one. And then Home is a bit different because we first used Moon, then we used Mars. So some people would say like maybe another planet, like maybe something outside of our own solar system. Who knows?
I was fully set on Deliver Us Earth. I was certain that was going to be the name of the third movie. When you dropped the video about we need backing and all of that, and you would like Deliver Us Home, I was like, that made so much more sense. I was like, this is why I don't write stuff.
No, it actually the name Deliver Us the Moon was a more metaphorical one, like deliver us life, deliver us the solution. So Home was already kind of in the title anyway. So if you say deliver us the moon, like we are not meaning literally that you take the moon and you shrink it into something and then deliver it. Of course, that wasn't a big case. So some people actually ask us, like, was that the meaning? It's like, no, of course, it was more metaphorical.
That's not the meaning.
We don't want to deliver the moon like that, but well, if that's what you get out of it, that's also fine for us. But no, so Deliver Us Home, in a way, we meant with Deliver Us the Moon or Deliver Us Mars, kind of Deliver Us Home. Yeah. Deliver us a solution, deliver us a path to a optimistic future, something like that.
Yeah, okay, I'll allow it, I guess. That that's really cool. That's really cool. I want to. What was it that got you? How did you make the relation? From a very, please explain to me like I'm an idiot. I know it's not going to be a hard stretch, but please explain to me like I'm an idiot as to how you go about pitching a game to lots of people, and how Frontier got involved with Mars.
So we had Deliver Us the Moon, and we unfortunately broke away from our first publisher. They had just like problems themselves, so they were kind of forced to not have attention for us anymore. Bit unfortunate for us, so we were on our own. So we released the game with an open ending. We were forced to because we needed to cut down the team, which was at the time, I believe, 18 people. We needed to go back to 6 people at the time. Then we finished the game, Deliver Us the Moon, with an open ending. We soon saw that people really loved the whole atmosphere, but they really wanted to have that ending, so they found it a bit short. They felt a bit cheated, and we said, okay, we're going to finish it, but it's so hard to make games. So give us a little bit of, like, if you have a bit of patience, we will finish it, and for free, we will add it to your experience. So we did that, and during that time, we were looking at some events as well, like Gamescom or even Brighton Develop, or PAX East, or you have one GDC, of course, in San Francisco. And we eventually found Wired Productions.
Right.
And Wired Productions helped. They said, okay, this is amazing. You get kind of already released, but not really. There's still consoles need to be made. So eventually we could have a deal with them to make Deliver Us the Moon from what it is today. So getting to all consoles, getting some proper marketing in, really helping out as a partner. So, and we are still working with Wired. So that's kind of our only example for us as being a kind and loving a publisher that kind of makes it work.
Yeah.
So then we continued. We were looking for it. We were pitching some other games as well to other publishers, some bigger games, some smaller games. Oh, look at that.
Don't look at him. Don't let him get involved. Keep going.
Not involved.
Don't let him draw attention, because that's all he does it for.
So then eventually we were pitching all these games, and one of them was Frontier, and we were pitching another game called We Are Human. So for people that follow us, they know a little bit. This is more philosophical about what it means to be human. And one of these publishers or this director said, like, so what about like your second title, your sequel to Deliver Us the Moon? So I looked at my brothers like, okay, we might as well pitch it as well. And this was like, we were trying this already for a long time with Wired, but it was hard. We were kind of like a mid-sized team from 10 people, 12 people. So it's quite expensive to run a studio like that. So eventually they said, we'd love it. We would love to create this game. So this was Frontier Foundry, which is kind of their new entity to release this third-party games. So we were very open to Wired as well. And so like, hey, this is on the table. Like, what should we do? Like, we kind of want to make it, and in a way, bittersweet, because Wired really wanted it as well. But at the time, we just couldn't make it work at that point, and they said like, hey, you guys are awesome. Spread your wings and get that itch out. Let's see what we can do. So we did that with Frontier, and we always kept working with Wired as well. Very good partnership with Frontier on the way of development. And then just a bit prior to our release, they kind of announced that they were kind of slowly cutting down the Frontier Foundry arm. So yeah, of course, they did everything they could at the time to push it as much as you can. But you can also imagine that maybe the priorities were a bit different.
Yeah.
So as much as we love everybody that we work with, but people are very kind to us, very generous. It didn't help much that news was there. So
yeah.
That's it. And therefore, we kind of lost a bit on attention. We still did a lot, though. And therefore, it's flying somewhat under the radar. And we had it in the beginning with Deliver Us the Moon as well, where we call it a slow burner. So that means it's not having the sales like Assassin's Creed in the beginning and then kind of like dies out. We kind of consistently sell our game and people still discover us, even Deliver Us the Moon. So we still get messages like, wow, this is amazing. We love this game. We're like, oh my God, this is the time where we reach you right now. And this is because we are against giants. Like, we are against companies that are putting millions into marketing. We don't have that. So, like, we need to do it very kind of guerrilla way, is getting our own communities, working with people like yourself. That is helpful. That is, like, for us, it's really our lifeline to survival to make it happen. Yeah. And we believe the same thing happens for Mars. So then we needed to continue. But then again, we were pitching to all these people. And you can't imagine, like, we've pitched above like 250 times to different publishers, entities. And during this market conditions, people are just afraid. People are very pessimistic. So they kind of rather want to watch it play out and then go. And therefore you hear all these companies kind of shrink and people shredding, and so many people are laid off and companies are bankrupting because people are kind of holding back their horses. And that is difficult. So we are at the same thing. So we need to lay off our people as well. Unfortunately, therefore, we are with a very small team and we are still standing on the shoulders of everybody that work with us, using all these assets to create Deliver Us Home.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Kickstarter was something to say, okay, let's surpass all these investors and publishers and under embargo and being all quiet about it. We are like, you know what? No, we're going to just we're going to shout about it. Like, we love this. Like, why be so quiet? Why also be behind closed doors? We never were like that. We love to build this with the community. We love to get the feedback straight away. And the Kickstarter was the way to do it. And we feel now like with this prototype out and you are playing it and we are actually writing down as like QA, like mistakes that we see, like, oh, we still need to kind of fix those things.
How much did I mess up in that first playthrough of the game though? Because that was so bad.
Not at all, actually. It's very, there's things that we saw ourselves like, oh, that could be actually a little bit more charming and elegant if we kind of turn that building around, because then your whole playthrough feels a bit nicer. But then imagine, like, we created this in a month with 4 people. Yeah. While we are doing marketing, while we are making the trailer, while we are contacting all these people. So yes, this is it's difficult, but it's call it a love letter to making games. Like, you not a person in their sane mind would keep doing this in these conditions. There's no plan B. It's always plan A for us. This is it.
Chris asked about what happened to We Are Human? Did it get released or left on the back burner? I'm assuming that all focus is currently on Deliver Us Home. There's no focus anywhere else at the moment.
This is it. So we are, yes, it's on the back burner. So we have We Are Human, which is a concept I still love to create, and many people were interested, from people like Amazon to Sony to Microsoft. So it just got on the back burner at one point. So even they were very optimistic about it. They thought it was like super cool ideas. And like I said, like a year ago, it looked quite optimistic even for a studio. That's why we pushed our employees for such a long time to say, we believe we can kind of like find the bridge to secure the job security. But things went a little bit more south in the industry. So people kind of said, like, you know what, like, we have another plan. We are not going to sign anything new anymore. We are super close to a lot of ones. So yes, it's still a concept we would love to work. It's a little bit more existential, about philosophy and about what it means, our existence as human beings, or maybe a bit further ahead. Still something we love to work. But at this point, it's completely Deliver Us Home.
Wild. There's something to be said for how passionate you are, Paul, and I don't want to risk, like, I don't want to risk your head getting so large that you can't walk out of the room or anything. But it is really inspirational to see you basically flying by the seat of your pants at this point and just throwing everything into this. It's there's a lot to be said for people who are passionate about the things that they do, and you are incredibly exuberant with that, and I'm really super grateful that we're able to sit and talk about this. When you made the decision to switch to Deliver Us Home being a going on the Kickstarter, you said it was a month from making that decision and then pushing it. Is that right?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. It's tough. It's just the moment, and this is a bit unfortunate, but it's as transparent as I can be. Is we hit an edge, and that edge meant that we were here with 20 people, and we told them, "This is it, guys. We have to let go everybody." And you could say this is kind of weird management. Like, why did you do this? We already said this after the release of Deliver Us Mars, which was back in 2023. We said it's going to be really difficult. So if we don't establish any new connection, we probably need to cut down the whole studio in June. We pushed it to September, and then we pushed it to December, and then we pushed it to kind of the beginning of this year. Quite extremely, like to some extent, where people would say, if you're like a real boss, just caring only about your profits and not about people, then you probably should never do that. We see that the crown jewels of our company is not just the games that we create, it's the people. We have built this up with so many incredibly talented people that put their heart and souls into these games. So my brother and I, we did anything to kind of keep them, but this was the moment where we need to let them go. And then you need to kind of think, like, at one point you need to kind of say, okay, how do we continue? Are we just quitting? Is this it? This is the moment we go bankrupt and bye-bye? Or are we going to try one more thing? And one of the things was we were going to GDC kind of with 5 pitches at the time, trying to establish something. And you can't imagine with how many people I talked to. I run from hotel to hotel. And nobody just went for it. Like, everybody loved it. Everybody loved our story. Everybody loved the whole openness of kind of our studio, kind of breaking our own non-disclosure, like just spreading and transparent about everything that we are creating. But then again, like, that didn't help. Like, it was very nice for people to say, like, oh, I love that. Like, what a cool move. Like, that's very unorthodox.
That's wonderful. But thank you. Now give me your money to make these games.
And we have a good case. So in a way, it's like yes, if it's all about business and return of investment, is sure, we can make a good case. Like, we have 10 years of experience. We know how to create a game from begin to end on different platforms. We know what we are doing here. Like, it's not that we are insane people doing some strange stuff and we are just spending money unwisely. So yes, I think there's a lot of guarantee for people that invest even now for people that are Kickstarters, like, can they really do it? We already did 2 games. Some people were asking about platforms like Xbox and PlayStation. Even the first game is now coming on Nintendo Switch. Like, we know how to do it. The thing is, like, we need to, of course, secure funding as well. So the Kickstarter funding, we can't really guarantee an Xbox and PlayStation and a Nintendo version. But then again, we did this before with our previous games. So, of course, that is the intention.
Yeah.
So, yes, at that time, everybody was gone. Some people were still helping from the team. We were helping to land jobs for our people while we were saying, okay, what can we do now? And then it's what we said, okay, well, let's do a Kickstarter again. Let's go back to the beginnings. Let's go full circle. How did it all start? And it started with this Kickstarter, asking the community for help, surpassing the investors, surpassing publishers, saying, let's go and let's give it a try. But yes, that was a month of time where we put everything together, from assets to making the Kickstarter ready, making videos, trailers, featuring in the Future Game Show, being helped by the guys from the Future Game Show. So we didn't have to pay anything. They helped us out because they knew our situation. So yes, we do get a lot of help, and it's still hard to kind of stand out of the crowd.
Yeah. And what goes into setting up a Kickstarter campaign? I'm speaking to you like the expert. With having done 2, that's a lot more than I could even want to do. But what is it that goes into that month? You said trailers and stuff, but what's the sort of nitty gritty, the minutia, as it were, that goes into that?
So one, of course, with the Kickstarter, it's not necessary to make a demo, but we wanted to do something more. But then again, with a whole team kind of gone, like, how are you going to create this? So, of course, we made a lot of assets during the time. So we were creating the demo, the prototype demo that you have played. During that month, while we are creating, of course, we also need to create a trailer. So you have a bit of a dependency. First, we need to have a game, then we can shoot footage. So
yeah.
We got like very early footage, and we were playing around with this camera. So it's my brother and I. We are actually editing these videos. We are coming up with the text. Then you have Remco and Sander creating parts of the game. We are kind of brainstorming, but we don't have much time. So we're just pushing all the things that we thought was, how is this gonna portray what we want? How is this gonna portray the differences between Deliver Us the Moon, Mars, and a little bit more of this open linearness that we are trying to do here, where people say, hey, I can really invest more time. So yes, we need to be very smart about our use. So can we use a cast from Netflix? Probably not. We don't have that money. Can we do mocap shoot with like 6 characters? No, probably not. But can we still get to that quality benchmark where people expect from us as a studio, with not having 25 people to 50 people to create, but just 4, maybe 5. We will do anything to create it to that level. And we do believe that in a month that we created this, with the assets, of course, of the game Deliver Us the Moon and Mars, we are actually getting close. And this is
spectacular. I cannot. No, I mean, again, risk of blowing smoke everywhere. But it's genuinely, I couldn't believe the quality of it. When I opened it, from literally clicking start and it just moving away into the game, rather than having like the little things like that, like little pretty things, and it's so pretty and it's so beautiful, and it's clear that there's so much love that goes into it. But I've seen demos on the back of Kickstarters, and I've played demos on the back of Kickstarters before, and I mean, you've made, since I played it, because I played it right at the beginning of the Kickstarter. I'm probably going to play it on Thursday as well, but I played it right at the beginning of the Kickstarter. And you've been making improvements and improvements and improvements to it through the whole time since the Kickstarter's been live as well, which is just brilliant, because it's not even out for people yet.
Yeah, it is hard. So it is. We love to do it, of course. And then again, people, we get sometimes like these messages. They're like, hey, we see that there's a missing texture. It is a prototype demo, so it's just a showcase. What normally it should be kind of like a white box, gray box state, so you don't really see much. It's kind of blockouts.
Yeah.
Of course, because we are releasing it to kind of the public, or at least the people that are backing our Kickstarter or supporting it, we are giving away that demo. You can't really make it too prototypey, because for normally if I would show this to investors, this would already be very much of a benchmark quality level where people are like, oh, okay, so now we get kind of like what the end result would be. You would never show this state to an investor. Yeah, of course, if you're far ahead of it, but if you're pitching, this is like way ahead of a pitch. But then again, we made it that way because we are known for the atmosphere. We are known to get you kind of into this mystery, and for definitely for the people that play Moon and Mars, like we are going a little bit more back to this mystery and agency, and leaving more to the player instead of kind of being on the roller coaster. You kind of always know your kind of linear paths. We kind of want you to be more in control, more kind of like part of the world and wonder.
Yeah, because it's certainly a lot more. Even like from the prototype, and I know the prototype it doesn't really reflect the game or to any extent, but from the prototype you're seeing a much more fluid and an exploration that hasn't been present in the other games. Is that something? Yeah. Is that one of the main points that you definitely want to include within?
Yes. So for a prototype demo, what you normally show as a game developer is you kind of show a bit of kind of everything. So what are you trying to evoke here? What is the differences that we kind of already seen in Deliver Us the Moon or Mars? Sometimes you show this, so to investors or publishers. So this one is actually showing, of course, we need to, in the full game, it needs to be a little bit more guided. It needs to be not too much, but it needs to have more kind of tuned why certain resources are there. There's now a place in the demo where you can kind of walk to, but there's nothing. There's just a little Easter egg where you see a little froggy. But of course, we want every place to be meaningful. But then again, we also wanted to show the communities like this is a prototype. This is just showcasing, hey, there's some crafting, there's utility to the suit, there's utility kind of to your rover, there's stuff that you need to puzzle around with, there's one-offs. Hey, there's a bit of like exploration. I can kind of choose my way to it. But yes, it's not kind of a showcase of the end result per se. It just shows you, oh, okay, I see where this is going. I see there's a jetpack. Could it be maybe upgraded that I could float more, or maybe even use the jetpack not as a double jump, but triple jump, maybe even float longer, reaching to certain parts in the level that I can't reach before, or maybe the reuse of level when you go to another space and you can come back with new utilities, and now some parts are open up, or maybe there's a cave that you can come in now. Of course, this is what we are trying to portray with this prototype, to say, oh, this is what the full game can have. This is just like a small little showcase that provokes that.
So looking to the future and looking to a future where a Kickstarter is fully funded, because I'm not accepting anything other than that, where Kickstarter is fully funded, we get to 10 o'clock on Thursday, and you've got 100%, and we're all dancing and crying like idiots because we're so happy that it's been completed. What are the next steps for you guys? Have you even thought about it? Would be
yes. I need to think about it. So making games is expensive, especially the games that we are creating, and we can still do that. So there's also other funding that we need to secure. So for example, there's Creative Europe, there's like an Epic Mega Grants, there's also like a subsidy in the Netherlands. We need to also shoot in for that. So for example, that pushes a bit more for example, consoles. It would pay for things like that. Even if we want to, it depends a bit on kind of the quality scope that you are creating. So the scope means just like how big the game, how long the game. So if we need to make an hour or two very, very detailed and stuff, then it can of course be a bit cheaper. But if you say no, but people expect 10 plus hours, you need to kind of arrange that. So there's a big chance that we actually do need to work with a publisher, meaning they're actually going to push a bit more for funding. We can actually create a larger game for the community. The only thing is if we go into that road again, because it's fine. I think there's still some publishers that are very good. We would love to do it on our own, but then again, you need way more funding for that. So yes, there are some stretch goals, but for 100, we can be self-sufficient. So yes, it really gets us kickstarted into the next few months, for everything that we kind of carry and how to pay for expenses and pay for employees and getting kind of real people in, maybe some freelancers to be a bit more safe. But eventually to create such a game, let's say over the next 2 years, this is not enough. So sure, the more it gets overfunded, the more reasonable it gets. But yes, we are also searching for other funding as well to secure a more safe environment for ourselves, but also for the people that we work with. And we don't want to really release an unfinished product. You know, we're like, okay, this is just like half. We kind of want to give the real love and attention for this experience, and not just like dump it on there and say like, oh, this is it. Like we have a great feeling, and it's now just more about scope.
Yeah.
How big is the game? Can we get 5 levels in like this, kind of what you experience in the prototype, or has it to be 3, something like that? And can you get there? It needs to be a step-by-step program. So yes, the Kickstarter is going to help us enormously survive this kind of battle. And then, of course, the next step is, okay, maybe we should go one day to Gamescom. It's around the corner here. I need to talk to people again and say like, hey, who likes to contribute to something like this? So yes, it's a bit of a step program, and it would be nice if I could say, oh, nice, the next 2 years are established. We can just develop the game, but we still need to do a lot of business before it.
Yeah. So
but yes,
yeah. So then the next steps is like, okay, we've got enough to keep going effectively.
Yes.
And just enough to keep going and propel us forward into the Deliverer's home.
Yes, and along the way we can continuously work on the game. So we are now working on the game as we speak. So it's not that we are kind of like holding back our horses.
Yeah.
We are only doing business. We are only trying to secure funding or to kind of make sure that there's a console edition alive. No, we are continuously developing. So it's kind of wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
So from creative direction to production to being in engine, in Unreal, creating these games, creating these puzzles, brainstorming with the team. So yeah, it's a bit schizophrenic to some extent. But well, like I said, you have to be a little bit crazy to be a game maker.
You do. You do. I've met enough to realise that is genuinely the case, and that's fine. But especially in the current shenanigans, I'm trying to think of a better word for it, but I don't want to. So can you, and this is probably going to be an absolutely not, Claire, you're like, how dare you ask this question? Can you give us a little bit of a story hint as to where we finished? Like, okay, spoiler alert for Deliverers Mars. We finished Deliverers Mars following 2 spaceships on the way to Earth, coming back from Mars, with very few people in them. One of them had a lot of dead people in them, and I don't want to talk about that because it makes me upset for him. One of them had a lot of dead people in it, and one of them had Kathy and
Yes,
Al in that ship. Where does Deliverer's Home pick up from the Deliverer's Mars story? And if you tell me you're not going to answer this, I'm going to be real sad.
What can I say about that?
Come on, man. Come on. It's only us friends here. That's all we need to know.
So yes, we do want to... No, actually, I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm going to leave you to that. But it's... we are going to go a little bit more existential. So
right.
While... of course, as you can see, it feels like, especially the prototype demo, it feels like this Earth-like environment. But also there's some things off, and we are hinting very, very, like a little bit to it in the end of the demo, where you can see it's not completely what it seems to be. What is this exactly? What is this space? We do want to create something like if you see Moon, there was a lot of grayness, of course, because of the Moon, and a lot of facilities, and Mars, it's a lot of redness and a lot of facility. And what we always wanted to do is we wanted to have more vegetation and stuff. So first we were playing around with the biodomes, and of course we were working with the flashbacks in Deliverers Mars. And now we said, okay, but we love these environments, so we need to do something with that. So we still keep it very much in the middle. What is this exactly? Is this Earth in a kind of a future state? Is this an exoplanet? Is this maybe some sort of simulation? Who knows?
You know. That's why I asked.
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. No, but it's yes, we're definitely gonna refer back to a lot of people. So it's gonna be a standalone game as well. So for the people that don't know Deliver Us the Moon and Mars, we also want them to kind of dive into it and like, okay. But for the people that did invest in it, sure, you can expect people returning. You can expect messages. You can expect little stories to unfold. So we won't let you down on that extent. So if there's like, oh, but we really want to know what happens here and happens there.
To them all, I want to know. That's my big sort of that's my one hope with the Kickstarter. Like, if the Kickstarter goes through, or when the Kickstarter goes through, my one hope for it is I just want resolution. I want resolution for these characters. It's gonna be sad. Are there any moon bears gonna be in it? Oh no, there's a whole bear in the Kickstarter that I missed in the demo.
If you there's a special area indeed where if you listen closely, you do hear some stuff. And there's holograms. I believe you missed them.
Yeah, I did.
For example, this is a bit on us. So I will cut you some slack there, because the moment you find your companion, your robot. It's also your kind of like it projecting these holograms, kind of unfolding a bit of the story. People know this from Moon. People know this from Mars.
Yeah.
But the moment that you kind of have that, so a lot of people are exploring. They kind of already passed these parts where these holograms can be activated. So
right.
In a way, for game making, it's not so good to backtrack. So that it means that you get the robot and you're going back to all these areas again. So this is, for example, a way of pacing in game making that should be different. So you should already have the robot, and then you go to certain areas that are maybe not accessible to you at the time, and then you find actually there's this activation part. So this is kind of the timing that we have. So we have it in, and it's there, and you can see it. It's not as smoothed out yet, and therefore it's a prototype demo. So it's there, it's functional, it works. You can see it a bit. It's still a bit like clunky here and there, and it's also not in your kind of critical paths right now. But of course, you can imagine with the full game is there, we have more time to do this. We have more time to put our care and our microscopic eye for detail. Where we are going to make this a little bit more easy for you to find. So it wasn't on you. It's
totally
more of the prototype.
Totally on me. I'm just bad at all video games. This is what this is. I'm gonna own that mantle forever. Heaven forbid she makes it a living or anything to do that. Oh my gosh. I wanna turn to chat and see if you guys have any questions as well, and you want to ask Paul anything. I've got him right here. So please do. I know Rocky asked if there was going to be a time jump in the game, but I'm assuming you're going to say I'm not going to answer that.
Yes, there's going to be a time jump.
Yes. Massive scoop right here.
Yes, actually, if there's people that have questions, like we have two ways how we did it. When we did Deliver Us the Moon, we were very open about and transparent about how we made things. We showed things about developments. Then with Mars, we became actually a bit more professional, and everything was under embargo, and everybody was behind closed doors until the release came. We are actually coming back from that, and we are saying like, no, we like the first part. Is we want to be very transparent, very open about our development, open about our struggles, open about how we are creating this. Like there is no secrets. Like it's we're not hiding something from plain sight or something. So if there's any questions, even if it's about my personal life, feel free to fire away.
Wow. Paul's like, I will tell you anything.
Anything. No, but again, like for everybody, and especially for you, and I'm very thankful that we can join this and talk to your community as well. It's really helpful. Like a lot of people think like, maybe it means nothing, or they probably get it anyway. Every little bit helps. It's really vital to our studio survival. So thank you for having me, and also thank you for the people that are watching. So ask me anything, I would say.
So Katie's asking, do you consult with actual space scientists? And then reconfirmed astronomist. I don't know. Words. I can't speak. But have you done a lot of consultation with space agencies?
Yes, so we have a very good connection with the European Space Agency, which is great. We actually visited. There's a video what we made with for Mars that we are visiting ESA, where there's actually scientists also speaking about Deliver Us Mars. Yes, we are still making a game, so we are making something plausible, a plausible, realistic outcome on what real technology is. For example, MPT, microwave power transmission, is really a thing. It's something that is there, and sure, there's a few things that we are kind of maybe over romanticizing a bit, but we're always trying to stay true in a fun way to real science. But then again, we are not real rocket scientists. Again, if you want to drive from one part to another, or having kind of a rocket launch taking you a few hours just sitting there, is going to be a bit boring.
Yeah, just go play Elite Dangerous. It's fine. Play a space simulator.
Awesome.
Play a space simulator if you want to do something like that. I get it.
But we are trying to romanticize it by still having the feeling. For example, the gravity on the moon. The real gravity, kind of what is on the moon in the game, its physics, felt really wrong. So when we put the real gravity in there, it felt a bit like stupid. Like, okay, these guys don't know what gravity is. So we actually made it more feel like the gravity on the moon, which is not the exact kind of thing, but therefore it's sometimes more about the player feel than reality. And so therefore we always change a few things. But yes, we are talking to real scientists. Also, our art director at the time, he consulted with a lot of people, also their narrative designer, with a lot of people that are doing real science or are biologists, about things that are plausible for a future.
That's wicked. I love that. I do love that. I can take we can take the piss as much as we like about other things, but there's finding the balance between the story and like the realism elements. I love space games. I love space. Space is awesome. And it's really cool to see that being at the forefront as well. Like with the Delivers the Moon, Delivers Mars, like hearing the like the origin stories of looking through a telescope, and those looking through a telescope with family, seeing that's where realization where that is where it starts. Oh, it's just so lovely. It's so lovely and wholesome. Stop being so lovely and wholesome, Paul.
No, thank you. It's just awesome. Like, it's we love that. We love space. I've always wondered about our place in the universe. It's fascinating to me every time, and I always like for people, if they kind of look up into the sky and just wonder a little bit. Like, sometimes you get a bit of an existential crisis in your head. It's like, wait a second, like, this is all like meaningless, and this is all, we are so small. And if you wipe that little dot away on the scale of the Milky Way, it wouldn't matter. But then again, it's everything that we know, everything, everybody, every great piece of art that we have seen, every great book that we read, every famous person that you look up to, or every YouTuber, streamer, every every great thing that we know, every love story that we know, every big architecture, every great story about religion or whatever, it's all made here. And I think it's therefore important that we kind of continue kind of to wonder and ponder on the sky. And there's something fascinating about that. There's something fascinating about human beings. We are crazy. We are kind of a weird species, but then again, I also think it's a bit of a love story as well. And it would be such a shame if that will be gone, right? If we become the next creature of extinction. It seems a bit sad. I think we can actually offer something more, and maybe we are learning. We are making a lot of mistakes, and we are still destroying the world. But I do believe we have potential. I truly believe we have potential.
So Rocky's asked, how is it working? How do you find working so closely with family?
Some people would say you're crazy for doing that, and most of the time it's, I would say this is great. Like, the whole training sequence started when we were kids. We were already
Yeah.
kind of figuring out our ways and knowing our trigger points, and we started off like in our backyard, making remakes of Star Wars and James Bond and even Scream. We watched it a little bit too early, I have to say, and we made kind of our own little amateur kid videos out of that. And then we started to write stories, and we recorded like adventures on tape, and made music as well. And we never really stopped doing that. So it's kind of this childlike imagination that you kept doing. And at one point we said, okay, let's do it more professional. Which in a way, the professional thing is just pretending to be professional. So you flip open a laptop, you write something on a whiteboard, maybe you drink some coffee, and you just start doing it. And we already did that, but then it was like a hobby. And then it's like, but now we're doing it seriously. But actually, there's no difference. It's just if you really want something in life and you think like, hey, this is cool, and we really believe if we can put our efforts together as the symbiosis of disciplines and create something meaningful with a rich story, go for it. Reach for the stars, I would say. And that's what we did. And yeah, of course, there's also a business side of things that you need to handle. And I think over the last decade that we professionally had this company, you learn a lot, and I think most of the problems always exist with money, where you need to trust each other. And I would say, like, I trust my brother and he trusts me, and we know how to arrange it, and you know how it's fair. And fairness also means that you just do whatever it takes to make it possible, and not just for us as brothers, but for your company, for your employees. It doesn't matter if you...
What's the gap between you?
I think
who's older?
3 years. He's older than me, yeah.
Okay.
But then again, like you just make it possible. And for example, I needed to not pay myself anymore. I'm still actually not doing it. So I needed to go from savings. I needed to go from family, just to continue this dream. And sometimes you need to set yourself aside to, for example, pay your employees. I wouldn't recommend this to people.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Let's not do this.
It's really hard to do, but it's yes, it is our sentiments to our belief to what we are creating, and that's okay. And if you can handle that, pressure, if you can handle like, okay, the sacrifice in that extent, yes, I think you can really work well with your brother or your sister, or maybe even all together. We also have 2 sisters as well, so
wild, amazing.
A big family.
Big family. Yeah, I have a twin. It's Katie in chat. I have a twin sister, and
awesome.
we work really closely together. We do loads of things, and I feel that a lot because, well, you will have disagreements with family, and sometimes it can last for a little longer than it was just with a colleague. But when you can have disagreements, there's also that level of trust, and I will have Katie's back more than I will have anybody else's. Like, I will stand up for her in every way, and I will support her in everything that she's doing, much more so than I would with a colleague. And we had a production meeting the other day, and which it just flows so. It flows so well if you have those strong relationships, and if you're on that same wavelength as well. I highly recommend working with family.
And what you're saying, you can kind of go over the edge and not being afraid to lose somebody. Like, you know, when you kind of hit a certain limit and you're like, okay, now if I'm gonna say what I truly think, I'm gonna put something into the mix that is like you are afraid to lose something. And the moment that you're starting to be afraid of, it can also be in a relationship, for example. If you're afraid to say something that you truly feel or think, but you're afraid that with being yourself, you probably lose that relationship, you're going to start and behave differently.
Yeah.
And with my brother, I know I can kind of be really rough, and he with me, and kind of go over that limit, but not lose each other. And I think that is very important. There's kind of like this trust bond that you have together, where you say, okay, we can actually, we can push it to the limits. And I think if it's maybe not family, some people would say like, I'm out, and then you
Yeah.
actually do lose it. And
Yeah, a
like
family member will call you out for being a
Exactly.
prick when
Yes.
an employee will be just like, you know what, I don't think this is for me. That kind of thing. when your family member is just like, well, I kind of have to stick around and I have to.
Yes.
I'm kind of stuck to this by name kind of thing, but also you're free to bounce those wild ideas off each other, and sometimes it takes someone who you're really close to, be it in a relationship, be it family, to just go, you need to know your limits as well. There's the other side to that, whereas I don't take criticism particularly well just in general, but it's easier when it comes from that place of someone knowing you for so long and just like
Yes.
having that strength of that relationship.
But yes, there were occasions where I needed to touch a phone or a keyboard like flying around. So yes, we have those moments as well.
Oh yeah. I know those all too well. This is why we live so far apart now, and we just do it on the phone.
That's a way to solve it.
Absolutely. I'm very aware of the fact that I've taken up so much of your time, Paul, but this has been such a lovely conversation. Are you planning on doing a big stream on Thursday?
So I will, like I'm wearing this now daily, this spacesuit. But yes, we are planning to do something probably live. So hopefully we get funded real soon now, because we are getting a bit sweaty. But yes, we are still confident we are getting it. And then I think it would be very nice if we do a little bit of a longer stream, probably on Thursday, when we actually reach the 10 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
So probably maybe a 3 or maybe even a 4-hour stream where we doing this live together with the community, where they can kind of see us going over the edge when the timer runs to 0, and then launch that rocket together.
So that's so exciting. Oh my god, I wish you the absolute, complete and utter best for everything. I really hope that it is successful and that it all goes through for you. But I will be there on Thursday in chat telling you how
awesome.
Bloody awesome I think you are, and crossing everything for it. Folks, if you are here and you haven't already, and you are fiscally able to, that's really important. Do not bankrupt yourselves. If you are able to donate or support the Deliver Us Home Kickstarter, please, there's a link in chat. Please go and do it. It means the world to me. KeokeN are just a beautiful, wonderful company, extrapolated and clearly shown by this wonderful, lovely chat that we have had. I'm gonna switch to an off screen just temporarily. Oh, deal, you absolute star, thank you kindly. And then but chat, please say a big thank you to Paul for coming and joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I love the questions. And if you have anything more or else, like bother us on Twitter or X, I have to say now. But thank you. Thank you for all the support that you're already giving, and thank you for so much attention for us. It helps more than you might think. So thank you all for the support. Really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks, Paul. Yeah.
Thank you.